All right. I didn't understand that when you start it, it goes away until she comes on. And that's how I'll know that she's here. Let's get this bubble person in the X. Okay, the screen is clear. The show is beginning again. As I say, I'm a proud future sponsor of Blessed Reading Glasses. Shauna, here she is. Here she is. Yes, add. Dominique Luna Blackwolf is should be here any second. She's watching and waving. This modern technology, it says it's add.
Can you see me?
Poor to a due to a poor connection. Here she is, Dominique. It is
Hi.
so good to see you today.
It's good to see you too. How are you?
Hi,
Hi.
I'm doing great this morning. I've gotten a lot of rest and I feel my spirit returning. Watched a
Good.
lot of Dave Chappelle, healthy stuff. Uh, all right. So in introducing you, let me take these off. And in introducing you and thinking about you, I just want to say that you're an activist. You're a person that is in there, changing the world, a world changer. How about that? How did you get going in that? What was your calling in that?
That's a really good question. My calling really began many, many years ago when I was first introduced to protesting, really would be my entry point. And that was, gosh, I was about 16 at the point, protesting against the war in Iraq over on Hollywood Boulevard. I used to go to Hollywood High School, and I was part of the anti-war protest back in those days. I believe that was 2016, 2015. So,
You know, Eckhart Tolle has long pauses in between his words sometimes, and I didn't know whether we got cut off or you were just thinking. This just might work. Talk quickly. Go ahead. Go ahead. Let's see if we could do this.
we're doing the best we can. I don't know what part you did hear or didn't hear, but my
You were
activism really
protesting.
started
You
when
were
I
in
was
a
a
war
teenager.
protest.
Yeah, and then from there I began to practice Buddhism, where I would chant for world peace with an organization called the Soka Gakkai, Japanese form of Buddhism, Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. If any of y'all have heard of Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, I was a strong activist in that realm for a few years. Can, you're cutting in and out a little bit yourself.
Dominique Luna Blackwolf. Dominique, I love you. This isn't where we will work this out. But I just think that this morning it's not gonna. The wireless connection is gonna stay the same, poor. You want to try one more time, and if it cuts out again, we call it a wash.
Yeah, that's
Could we
fine.
do that?
hmm
All right.
Yeah,
So you wanna
it looks like the
try one?
viewers are saying that you froze on your end. By trying one more time, do you want to go live again? Like, do you want to end this live and then start a new one? Is that what you're saying, or do you want to just keep
The
going?
first one cut off too. From a scientific standpoint, I did try again when we cut
Mm-hmm.
off the first time or something.
Yeah,
I don't think it's yeah, but it's working now. So
working now.
let's muddle on. Let's muddle on. I love your
Yeah.
story. I love listening to you. So
Hmm.
speak.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so I guess to finish my story, kind of make a long story really short. I through practicing Buddhism, I chanted for world peace, and I was a strong activist for world peace in that organization. And but then I began to explore other paths of spirituality with shamanism and through understanding how to journey and different forms of meditation and connecting with my ancestral guides and my spirit animals, I moved away from the Buddhist organization and I really started becoming an activist of spirit um, and more I guess within the past 3 years, I've been vegan, off and on, and through nutrition and through my own journey with detoxification of my body, I began to really become an activist of cultivating clarity in my vessel and then helping others gain the clarity in their vessels so that they can become sovereign beings in themselves, so that we can co-create a better world for our children.
Let me just cut in for a second. When you tried it, did you notice a change in uh, what were the changes that you noticed when you changed your diet?
Um, Like like the taste? What kind of changes are you talking about? Or in general?
No, more like vibrational changes. Did you notice more clarity?
Oh,
Did you feel
oh
more
yeah.
connected to the universe? Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. When I do cleanses and when I do different types of, whether I do a mono cleanse where I'm doing just a type of one type of food like a fruit, a certain type of fruit. I've done mono cleanses with different types of, or fasting. That is when I really get clear messages from spirit. That is when I connect to spirit most intensely. And through doing thing, which is what I've done more recently, I've noticed that I can sustain it for longer
What
and
kind of
I'm able
cleansing?
to have those effects. What's that?
You cut out
What'd you
just for
say?
a split second. What kind of cleansing? What kind of cleansing was the
Uh,
last cleansing you were talking about?
with superfoods. So using
Oh,
superfoods. So
okay.
superfoods are foods that have a high nutrient dense compound like algae, chlorella, spirulina. Those are all considered like superfoods, maca as well, mushrooms. Um, so I use a combination of products that have seriously taken my consciousness to the next level and removing glyphosate from my gut. That's another form of activism that I'm now aware of. I didn't even know what glyphosate was like a
Oh,
year ago, and I was on the cleansing path. Do you know what glyphosate is?
I believe it's one of the pesticides.
It is. It is. It's actually an herbicide. It's an herbicide that Monsanto has created, and they've been using it on wheat since 1986. So it's been introduced in our society for a very long time, and they're finding that glyphosate is now linked to many different types of autoimmune disorders, potentially autism, Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer for sure. It's considered a carcinogen by the state of California. So it's like it, it's causing a huge array of epidemics. Gluten intolerances are usually glyphosate intolerances because it's embedded with the gluten and with the wheat.
I
So,
wondered about that. That answers a question for me because in my philosophical way of thinking, I was thinking that bread was the staff of life and that people um, lived on bread was a basis of life for many years and we survived. And now there's so much wheat and gluten intolerance. And I was
Hmm.
wondering about that. That's a good point.
Yeah, the bread that we
I
have on the shelves today is not the bread that our grandparents had, or like even just two generations ago, like it's not the same thing. And so it's because of the chemicals. And
do you
we're
eat
our
bread?
bodies are rejecting it by creating these
Do you,
diseases.
do you eat bread?
I do actually. I eat non-GMO organic bread from time to time, very rarely.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
But I usually have it in the house so that I can make my daughter sandwiches for school. So I'm not like anti-bread, like for me, I feel like it's all about moderation. It's all about having balance in your body. When you can create balance in your body, that's really when you're able to unlock states of consciousness and maintain it rather than going into the what I used to do is called the like cleanse binge cycle where I would go on these really deep cleanses and then I would like go off the cleanse pretty good for like 2 or 3 days, but then about 3 or 4 days after the cleanse was over I would go into a binge cycle and I would have foods that were not necessarily like junk foods but like
Come back.
junk health foods, like foods that are high in fats and high in sugars, and even though they were healthy fats and sugars, it was still an excess amount, and it was not a overall balanced cycle that I was in.
May I ask you, did you notice like a psychological component in that? That why do you think that you would go on these binges, this cycle?
Yeah, absolutely. It was completely psychological. There's a gut-brain connection. And so our microbiome in our gut has a direct effect on the serotonin and the mood balancing chemicals in our brain. And so what would happen is I would go and I would be replenishing my gut and I'd be feeling really good, but then I would get into a point I would have this like craving or whatever. And I would be going through something. You cut out.
Yes, and let's keep going. This is too good. I'm fascinated by this. Keep going,
Okay, cool. Yeah,
please.
so what would happen is something emotionally challenging would come up and I would reach for food to soothe that comfort. And I if I was on a cleanse, it was really easy for me to like be like, no, I'm cleansing, I'm not going to do that. But to maintain it in my everyday life was a little bit more challenging. That it was part of how I was raised in my family. They would give food for either reward or they would give food for making me feel better if I was upset. And so this is an ingrained reward system that many kids have been raised with of, oh, if you're a good kid, you get a lollipop. Like having that sugar connection neurologically, it creates this response where, oh, like I'm being good, so I'm going to reward myself with some sort of like sugary treat. And even if that sugary treat is a piece of raw vegan cheesecake, it's still not psychologically beneficial for you.
Yeah, and even if you're still getting that sugar. Here, okay, let me cut in for a second and ask you. So, how are you doing this differently with your daughter? I am big on changing the world through our children. So, how do when in my last, now, let's not go into which marriage, but in one of them, Easter was the giant chocolate Easter basket. The Halloween was the mega candy. How are you going to relate to Halloween, for instance, with your daughter?
So I actually have gotten really creative with some help of my friends, and I have created a fictional character similar to the Tooth Fairy named the Switch Fairy. So I came across this challenge with my daughter when she was in preschool. They would hand out candy left and right for every single holiday. I mean, she was getting candy for 4th of July, she was getting candy for President's Day. I swear it was like everything. There was like some sort of chocolate coin or something that they were feeding her.
Yeah.
And And so she would be coming home with these bags of candy, Valentine's Day, Easter, your Halloween, of course, Thanksgiving, Christmas. I swear every month had a candy holiday in it. And so I was like, okay, how do I, like, she's getting this from her preschool. How do I, how do I do this? So we created what's called the switch fairy. And the switch fairy, um, comes to the front door and will switch out her candy. She gets to keep one piece of candy, 1 to 3 pieces of candy, depending on like the size of the candy. And then the rest of the candy goes onto the front porch for the switch fairy. And so what the switch fairy does is is takes the candy and then replaces it with a coloring book or a toy or some sort of other thing that she then gets to keep instead of it just getting consumed and being gone. So it's actually creating sustainable like reward system of it's still commercial, it's still like, but it's better.
Well,
It's a step in the right direction.
it is a frustration. Um, it's been a long time ago for me, but as I remember, it before my kids went to school, I had more control over what came into their lives, and the older they get, the more influence of the world has on them.
Hmm.
And it does. I like that solution, the fact that you're coming up with solutions. And I would like to take this opportunity to like compliment you that you're a solutions oriented person. Whereas a lot of people walk around and basically bitch about the way things are, you're in there on many levels affecting change in a creative, loving way. And that's why I asked you on the show, because I support that very much.
Thank
So,
you. Thank you very much.
yeah. Um,
I noticed that there is a comment that came up of somebody that is, as I think, misinterpreting what I'm saying. Her name is Jennifer Eaton. She's talking about that. It's not about food binging or cleanses. It's about changing your eating habits completely. That's exactly what I'm saying, Jennifer. We're on the same page. Like it's about completely changing your eating habits. It's not about cleansing. Like the cleansing
she
has,
froze.
you see me now?
I see you.
Yeah. Hi. But what Jennifer is saying, I'm in complete alignment and agreement with of changing your eating habits more in the like everyday scale of what you're eating rather than going on the cleanse binge cycle. That's where I'm coming from and where I've come out of. And so, Jennifer, I just wanted to uh, comment on your comment and let you know that I'm not advocating for people to go on really intense something that, but it was contributing to my binge cycle. And so I really advocate for sustainable nutritional support through everyday choices, exactly like what you're saying. So I'm sorry that you may have misinterpreted what I was saying. Can you see me?
I can see you. I'd like to just stay on this your daughter thing, all right? Just for a second.
Yeah.
Um, how does she view your role? I mean, how does she see you? How do you see her seeing you as that you're trying to protect her from this stuff that maybe a lot of her friends aren't,
Mm-hmm.
don't have you as a mother?
Sure. Well, sometimes she resents me, to be honest, and it sucks because she gets sugar at my mom's house and she gets it at her dad's house and she gets dairy and meat in both of those places. And, everybody is where they're at with their diet, and I'm not in a place to tell anybody what they should or should not be doing. I can only speak from my experience. And in terms of like her point of view on me, Yeah, sometimes she resents me. Other times she goes, "Oh, but we don't eat that because that could make us sick." And she knows. Like she like has a very like real understanding of like, if you're gonna eat something like a bunch of candy, you know, at your dad's house, then you're gonna feel sick the next day. And it could lead to bigger sicknesses long term. And I want you to be healthy. And so I'm just teaching you how to be healthy and sustain your body. So she gets it, but sometimes, I mean, she's 5. So,
And on that note, when I was raising my daughters and they were young, uh, there was the same type of thing, only we did raise them to have an appreciation of what could be healthy and what could be detrimental. And both of them, of their own free will, became vegetarians and ultimately vegans and kind of did that dance for the rest of their lives. It got to where as teenagers they were putting the PETA pamphlets around the house,
mm,
to influence me.
hmm.
So I'm going to tell you from a fatherly and ultimately grandfatherly approach that I support you in standing up to the big monster that is the outside world sometimes, and raising your child with an awareness that when it's time for her to make her decisions, she'll at least have that on file. She will be able to make a conscious decision. Good job.
Exactly. And that's what I feel like is the most important part for raising our children is to give them the tools so that they can make their own decisions. It's really important for me to empower her to make her own decisions. If she wants to eat chicken, she can eat chicken. Like I'm not necessarily going to buy it and cook it for her, but if she's going to get it somewhere else, I'm not going to say no, you're not allowed to have that. Like
Yeah.
she is her own person, and I want to give her the foundation so that she can make the best educated decisions for her own body, not because of my morals or my values or what I think is healthy or not healthy, but because what she feels is in alignment with her overall well-being. And she can differentiate what is psychologically that she wants and what is nutritionally what she wants. And that's been the hardest thing because she does get rewarded at school or at other caretakers' houses like her dad or my mom with the sugar thing. So that has been
Yeah.
something that has challenged me in parenthood of not quite seeing eye to eye with other figures in her life.
Well, I will make the suggestion that, whatever, if they feel like they're being restricted, then it's kind of a gentle guiding. Like I feel like my spirit like guides me in what I might notice on a particular day, what appears before me. And if you're just not making a big deal out of it and gently guiding and letting them go their way, and at the same time you're also gently influencing. But I believe that you're right, that she should be allowed to make her own decisions at her age, that and so if she has 3 pieces of candy rather than a bag of candy, at least she's getting a taste, right? It is a
Mhm.
balance and a compromise. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. It's
But
all it's,
you
it's
know
all about
yeah,
teaching our
go ahead.
children how to be in balance.
Yeah, yeah. So, all right, I, I have another question to ask you. I jump around. Please jump with me. What is your goal in life? Do you have do you have an ultimate goal of like where you see yourself as, you're in your late 20s right now. I believe you're 27. Am I right?
Mhm. Yeah, right
Mid
on the
to
money.
late 20s. Do you where do you see yourself in 10 years? Do you have thoughts like that? At my age,
Hmm.
I don't want to think about where I see myself in 10 years. I want to enjoy every day. But where do you see yourself in 10 years? Do you think about that?
I do. I do. I have a 10-year goal of living on property in community, having my own earth ship or earth dome that is in a community of others, that we live in harmony with the land and doing ceremony on a very regular basis and hosting retreats for people to come and to rejuvenate their bodies, their minds, and their spirits and to be of service. I also see myself flying all over the world and performing Native American flute and sharing that medicine around the world as it is a vessel and a vehicle that I have been gifted from Creator of a great blessing, and I want to share that with the world.
I can't resist going there. What inspired you? I know we spoke once, and I remember you've been playing for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
What inspired you to pick up the flute?
Oh, that's a juicy story. Heartbreak.
All right.
Heartbreak. Um,
Heartbreak.
yeah, my friend was playing the flute. She had it. She had taken a Native American flute course on some college, OSU, I think it was, Oregon State. And she got a Native American flute. We were at this camping trip, and this camping trip with all these friends. And the night before, I was with my boyfriend, and there was like a situation that was emotionally very challenging and hurt my heart. I'm hearing a feedback of my own voice. Let me just turn the
It's
volume
not
down.
on this end, I can say that. It's
Okay. So what happened is she told me that I could grab the flute at any point that I wanted, and it was about sunrise, which is about my power hour. That's really when I'm supercharged throughout the day. So I grabbed her flute and I hiked up the creek and I sat there with the creek, and that was the first time that I really played the flute. I felt like I was alone, that nobody could hear me, that I was just playing to the creek, and I was allowing my heart to finally sing, to finally play these notes that I had told myself that I couldn't do with my voice. After many years of being told that I was tone deaf and that I couldn't sing, I had squashed my voice, and I stopped singing entirely. That was when I was about 10 or 11. So at this point, I'm 20 years old, and I'm finally feeling like I can sing for the first time, and it's through the flute. And I was able to express these emotions from my heart to the river. And little did I know that I was actually within earshot from another friend who was in a tent, and she was waking up to me playing this song of heartache through the river. And she didn't know that it was me, but when she found out that it was me, and I found out that she actually heard me, it was the first confirmation that I could actually do music, that I could play music. Before then, I had never been able to pick up and maintain an instrument. I mean, I knew a couple chords on the piano and on the guitar, but I couldn't really come up with music on my own until then, or I hadn't had that experience. So a few months later, my room that her former partner made her, and she gave it to
I'll
me
freeze too. Oh,
as
here
she
we
was
are.
purging her belongings. And so that flute was my first flute that I was given, and that flute went with me to Arizona, where I then played to the four directions every morning at sunrise, and then I just kind of really voice. Can you see me? Could you hear?
We're back. We're back. We left and we're back. I wanted to ask you, when I listen to you play, are you uh, is this an improvisation every time you pick it up? Is that how you do it?
Usually, yeah,
And
usually.
where did you learn your technique? I mean, did you have lessons? Because you're a virtuoso. You just did
I am
this?
completely self-taught. I have learned a couple things by watching other people play. Um, Other than that, listening to flute, it's just listening and being like,
Yeah.
oh, I wonder how I can make that sound. But I mean, self-taught entirely.
All right.
I've never
Ch-
had like a,
have you ever heard of Odell Borg?
it sounds very familiar.
Clear, high spirit flutes. He
Mm-hmm.
lives in Patagonia.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had the opportunity to go visit him. And I don't know if you ever heard me play flute, but it's not my main instrument. But I heard it once at a drum circle, and I just had to get one. And I do
Mm.
things like Smoke on the Water and Hendrix riffs. And I learned a few of the, trills and everything. And I might rip you off. And I know that's allowed in love and music. You're allowed to steal. So I'll be watching you.
Yeah, please
Okay.
do. I would love to teach people if they are wanting to learn certain techniques about the flute. And if anybody is looking for a flute, I would highly recommend Sacred Moon Flutes. They're in Ashland, Oregon, and there are two brothers that hand make them, and they tune them to 432 hertz, which is the Schumann's resonance of the earth, which is something that High Spirits has just started doing. So supporting a small business like that, I would highly recommend if somebody is looking for a flute to contact them.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All
Did I
right.
cut out?
So
I can
you've
never
just
tell
brought
because
up
you freeze.
you. Oh, I thought I was normal. I thought it was you that was
Right? I
freezing.
think how it seems for both of us.
Now this has led me to a question I've been thinking about for a while. What is the difference between A440 and
32.
A432?
So 440 is concert style, which is so the hertz is a frequency that the waves are transmitting at. And there's
Right.
different frequencies. Have you heard of
So
binaural
why
beats?
is 432 more spiritual? Is it just
Can you
that
say
it
that?
is, or
It's the resonance of the inside of the earth. It's the resonance
ah,
that is at the core of the earth. So when they monitor the frequency that is being emitted by the magnetic field of the earth and the core of the earth is generating that magnetic field, that is 432.
look at that. That is,
440,
I never knew that. That's
yeah,
great.
that's called the Schumann's resonance.
Schumann's.
Hmm.
Okay.
Schumann is the
From
guy, the
Schumann, the
scientist that
composer,
discovered
or a Jewish shaman?
that. Hey,
Kidding.
Ilka.
I'm a clown. Well, I can't resist throwing in jokes.
I
Hey,
love it.
Dominique, I'm going to ask you online. Next time you travel the world, if you ever need a holy clown on board in your entourage, I'll carry your microphone. I don't know. I'll do so. I'll make myself useful.
I'll definitely keep that in mind, Sam.
All right. Um. Okay. Um. Not that we have to go, but I find that if these run over 40 minutes, they get it's hard to have that much time in a day to watch them, and I try to keep them under 40 minutes.
Mhm.
So enough about you. Why don't you ask me a question?
Yeah, I was hoping I'd get to ask you some questions. So I'm
Okay.
really curious, Sam, what your story is and how you became so um, comfortable in front of the camera.
Well, um, okay. Uh, I don't know if you saw yesterday's show about my dad. Did you,
I
incidentally?
didn't.
I
I
know
didn't. I had a very busy
that's
day
okay.
yesterday.
Well, I spoke about my dad and about the basically torturous approach uh, of learning to read music and being punished. And So I ended up taking the back door into music of improvising and not knowing how to read. So, and the concept of making mistakes, punished and beaten for making mistakes. And so as I went through life, I started to focus on the fact that it's all right to make mistakes. It's good to make mistakes. Mistakes are very valuable. And if you are afraid to make mistakes, you ain't going nowhere because mistakes are built in. So you're frozen in place in fear. So I suppose there was a time in Tucson when I could sit in 6 nights out of the week because I had developed my improvisational skills to the point where it became a language and I knew when to shine and when to shut up and how to how to relate like that. And so I used to be shy. I used to be scared and shy. And I was once told by a sales manager, were you ever bitten by a snake? And I go, what do you mean? And he walks away. And I start thinking about it, once bitten, twice shy. And it was just life, following, doing what I had to do through life and getting stronger in that. And now I have a very strong philosophy that, mistakes are good. And, and, we have a tendency to, when we watch like commercial TV, they splice the mistakes out. You don't see people with my teeth on TV. You don't see mistakes on TV. You get a very limited slice of what life is like from most media. And so, being a clown and a bringer of light and love and laughter to the world, which is my goal in retirement, since I have no other purpose, uh, this seems like a good way of contributing to the world. So I get to we're back. So I will say that no, I wasn't born comfortable performing, let's say, but um, polka a polka, little by little. Uh, and I still, make mistakes. And that is part of, and so I'm here to show, you know, these teeth don't bother me. I like my teeth. Uh, uh, and not when I'm eating, but in general, I don't mind that my teeth are bad or that I make mistakes or that I've made mistakes in my life, and it's something that I worked on, and as I grew from the inside, uh, and now that's what I'm here to show in a way, to be yourself and be a clown. It's all right. Uh, I still go through stuff where I was up to 300, Dominique, I was up to 308 followers. And and in the last days since I got, it seems to me, if I was to make a correlation, in the last days my energy dropped. I got serious. I wasn't my followers have dropped down to like 295, I think. I just lost one between the time I woke up and the time of this show. Another one dropped off. there's a part of me that goes, ah, and a part of me that goes, all right, I don't
Mhm.
care if it's for everybody. Yeah, I can't be everything for everybody. Nobody can be, right? So you pick and choose, and I just feel like being yourself is the most important thing. So I show my mistakes, I show my darker moments, just like you do. I'm very impressed that you speak very honestly about all the different aspects of your life. And on that note, I watched a minute and 32-second clip yesterday of your sexual relationship with food that just gave me a laugh. And
There
and
you are.
so, for me, the sex is not burning bright in my life. It's a thing that's down to a charcoal of slight glowing. But I do believe that sexuality is very important on your path and a valid road, tantric yoga, a valid path, and being honest about your sexuality is important, uh, at least for your self growth. I really feel that. So I like your openness on that level. Anna was a hoot, and
That was a
and
lot of fun.
so
A
did
hoot.
Hoot. He's going
Hootie
back
liked
there.
it.
He doesn't speak much, but his hoots are well placed. He calls his hoots. All
Oh,
right,
good.
Dominique, we're at the 40-minute mark here, and
All
there
right, it's
aren't
about that
any
time.
commercials. So, is there anything you'd like to say in closing?
In closing, I just want to say that for everybody that is still listening, thank you for listening to our dialogue. And please feel free to contact me directly if you have any questions. And I'm here to just serve humanity from my heart and not my ego, and just really make a difference in the world.
And I would like to say that I'm just so proud of you and all of the people that are in the younger generation that are carrying the torch. And sometimes I've had this thought these last days that before matches and Bic lighters, when you would move from one camp to another, you had to bring the fire with you. And so you made a pouch that you would bring some embers in the pouch that you could then fan when you got to your new camp and start a fire and not have to wait for lightning or, something like that to have a fire. And I feel like that sometimes we are those people that even though our numbers are not as big as the mainstream, that we're the fire keepers. And even if that fire burns down to a coal where it's not always seen, we keep it. All right, we're reconnected, and that we are carrying the fire, and I'm very very overjoyed could be the word that there are people that are carrying the fire and that we're not losing the knowledge. And if anything, people like you are bringing new knowledge to the table. So it's been a pleasure having you on my show. An honor.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank you
honored.
so much for having me.
All right. Namaste. I see you, girl. I see you. All
Aho.
right. Have a great day. And I'm going to say goodbye for both of us. It's been a groovy show. Catch you next time. And you just keep going and doing what you're doing. You have my total support and love.
Thank you, Sam. Love
All
you.
right. Peace out. Peace out. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.
It's been a wonderful show. And I'm licking my finger again and again and again. Starting to enjoy it. All right. All right. See you later. Bye-bye, Dominique. Bye-bye, everyone.